I feel that this ordinary Indian has been completely neglected since independence. Netaji perhaps was connected with that real India.
This government is not supportive of the previous narrative.
How hopeful are you about the future of India?
Another term for Modi, I think, would be good because I don't find any other person of the caliber that he is.
That India will enter a golden age, a golden era.
I was telling you that I come from a very different kind of a background, but I've had many experiences in life. I've met some amazing people, and one of them being Sri Dharampal. I don't know if you know about him. I'll give you his research work, So, since then I've started thinking in a very different way. I would say thinking without any framework. Normally we think through frameworks,
Yes,
whether कोई ना कोई ideology के framework से, कोई ना कोई subject के anthropology के framework से, historical framework से, कोई ना कोई framework से देखते हैं. I've attempted to look without frameworks. And I've also developed a great respect for the ordinary Indian mind. And I feel that this ordinary Indian has been completely neglected since independence. We have lived in a make-believe kind of a world. And none of our so-called great leaders were in touch with the real India. I mean, even though I have great respect for many of them, I do feel that Netaji perhaps was connected with that real India because he also thought without frameworks. He was first and foremost an Indian, and he was a nationalist, there's no doubt about it. He was not caught up with ideologies, maybe for a while, but he then soon came out of it.
Not a prisoner of a
No, exactly. So now I feel that something has happened in the last 8-9 years since this new government has come. I'm not a BJP supporter, I have to say that. I'm not a Modi fan. But I think something, despite whether it's because of their doing or not doing, something has happened that some voices have come up. People like you, the way you are talking and the way you are received, I doubt if you would have been received the same way before 2014.
No, right.
We are not being received even in Calcutta even today.
And also,
no person of your caliber in Calcutta will sit with us for even for 1 minute. He will dismiss it without even listening to us.
And this is not because the government is giving you support.
No.
This is despite that. Now this is what I am talking of. What is happening? There are tens of people I know today who are talking a different language. They may not all be aligned, but they're talking differently, which was not possible before 2014.
Actually,
suddenly a space has opened up. So
This
some shift is happening, and I want you to talk about that, what you feel, and with all your research, all your findings, how do you connect with this?
This is more of a realization.
Let me start off with, then you can add, because I will be giving a different perspective altogether. My feeling is about it is the shift is not because of anything that we have done per se. I think the credit goes entirely to the Americans. So they have created two things. What they have created: internet, and they have created social media. Now because of social media, the discussion real time can take place without any inhibitions and without any censorship. This was not possible earlier. And because these things, the social media, for example, it's not controlled by the system here, it's outside. System is not able to meddle, into it. And so I think there's free flow information, this relation, and people like us, for example, as you said, we would have been outcast, early previously. Even today, we are not welcome in the high society places. Lutyens still, I have managed here and there, but we have managed, but the high society, the Calcutta Club still does not, think too much of us because they're still trapped in that era. The change has happened primarily because of the onset of the power of social media, which has, in a sense, made the world much more democratic than it was earlier. Now, see the difference now. A person, roaming about in the Central Park of New York, and a person in a field in remote part of India. Both of them have the same Wi-Fi and same data and same mobile phone. And they can access the same information. So I think this, whatever great change that we are seeing in the last couple of years, I personally think the credit goes to Americans. For whatever reason they have created these Facebook, Twitter, it has made it far easier for us to not only communicate but to spread our thoughts across the world.
But there's another element to it. This political correctness and political incorrectness. These boundaries were very sharp earlier. What was politically correct? I mean, we were caught in ideologies. Today I see a shift. Of course, what you're saying is extremely valid and it is important, this social media, spread of social media. But do you think there's a shift in the mind space of people?
It is of course, that you see every day. Every day there's a fight because earlier the cabal, controlled everything. Now, take for example the media. For example, the Hindi media, it used to be previously, English media was everything. All the advertisements will go to the big newspapers because they are reaching out to people who are affluent. They can buy stuff and all that. And then suddenly you have the Hindi channels, and Aaj Tak became much more popular, and and it was reaching masses. So now the shift is more towards Hindi media, and so much so that even the English channel debates, it was unthinkable. It must have been they're speaking in Hindi actually. No, in the English channel debate they're using Hindi. Of course, that's very natural because we are all Indians. And so this change is because of, I think that it's all pervasive, the thoughts, and people are discussing because the ease of, I think somewhere down the line, all that we have discussed was there earlier also. But earlier, for example, Ramna Lohia or JP, when they talked about these things, they did not get much avenues. They were not in the system, they were not part of it, so they were not having access to the All India Radio to propagate their thoughts. But now it's become much more easier. So the thoughts are going about and people are intelligent enough to understand.
What about the psychology of people? For instance, when I was young and I was studying in college, IIT, I was there, and I used to find people going abroad, even for 6 months or a year, and when they would come back from America or England, they would have an accent, right?
Yeah.
American or English accent. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, people
So what has happened? That there's a difference I see in a different sphere. Do you see that? And do you see that connecting with what your work? Is it supporting your work?
I would say that because since you mentioned America, I have done several tours of America. I've delivered talks, Netaji and all that. And then I see where you're coming from. People living there for 30 years, they don't have an accent. And they in many ways, they are more Indians than we are. So and then they are not only, and they're sitting there, they have been able to influence the polity and discourse here. Don't forget, people on social media, so many of them are not in India. They're outside. They are fear. They have no fear. They have no worries. I will think 100 times before, let's say, last couple of days, even the CGI is not spared of criticism. Sitting in my country, I will think 100 times, even raising my voice in front of the session judge. He will put me in jail. But if I am sitting in America, I'm sitting in some other country, I'm not concerned what he or she will do to me. So I think this world has become much more democratic place, and all these voices are now amplified everywhere. They can reach the nook and corner. And that's why all these narratives which are somewhere hidden, and they have become mainstream. And people like us, we were, if we had met you, let's say 20 years ago, we would have been conspiracy theorists. But today we have become mainstream. So because this is reality, this is mainstream. But because the cabal which was ruling the country, and everything else to them was a conspiracy theory. Only their narrative was the gospel truth. Everybody else is just spinning conspiracy theory. So now we have the mainstream. And the government, the change of government has also helped, because this government is not supportive of the previous narrative. At least the rank and file aren't. In fact, I find there's a disconnect. Insofar as the bureaucrats and the top level ministers are concerned, well, they are same. They are no difference. It's the same Gandhi narrative which is being pushed around by Modi especially. But when it comes to the middle level, lower level, they are 100% they are radicalized. Like they're not at all supportive. So in fact there's a clash building up. The rank and file is not very pleased with the current dispensation, the way they are going about promoting the continuing with the old dogmas and old theories. So very interesting times ahead for all of us actually.
Yeah, I agree with him completely that technology has been an enabler. Enabler in the sense it has acted as a force multiplier. Thoughts, ideas which were earlier dormant. People didn't have the courage to challenge the ruling dispensation or the establishment, be it political or media or academic. people were afraid to speak out because they would be victimized in some way or the other. So with the coming of spreading of technology, communication, means of communication, gradually this change has taken place gradually over many years. At least what I have seen, at least 7-8 years before the NDA, before Modi ji came to power. So there was, I mean, because I was involved in social media very actively from say 2008-9 onwards in Twitter, and even before that in Orkut, Facebook and all, I've seen the change gradually. How did it happen? People gradually started speaking up. They picked up fights. There was a clash of ideas. So the people who were doing politics on ground, people who were with different houses of media, they were debating, discussing, coming, not realizing the implication that people always think that what they write or say on social media is counted only by number of likes or views. No, there are silent watchers. People come, read, see and go away. Then they think about it. Their opinions are shaped. So once this volume started building up, there was an inward turn from that global peace hunting towards more inwards. How about India? What are India's interests? Where are we missing? What are we missing? Where are we lacking? What can we do? And then the politics of it came in. That wave of anti-Congress sentiment from particularly from 2010, 11, 12, around that time, and the parallel ascension of, if I may use that word, of Narendra Modi coming up the ladder of BJP and elected and put at the top. So these were working in parallel and reinforcing each other. And when BJP starts building and tries to build a new narrative, it's sort of accidental also, because they are hunting for new icons. So if there, one thing only is fixed, is that the Nehruvian architecture has to be displaced. But by what? They are not very sure of it. So they are hunting for icons. So they come up first with Patel. Then they start giving place to somewhat same-facedly, but gradually Deen Dayal Upadhyay name comes up. People didn't know about these things. Then they realize that there is a big opportunity in Netaji. So they start building up, picking up icons and showing them in the, even if not in the proper deserved light, but at least much more than what the previous governments did, previous political parties did. And this further impacted the debate, and there was a cultural shift, an Indic awareness, a regeneration of Indic thought. And the people who were working along these lines, for them also this was an opportunity. So they also became more vociferous. That the production of literature and these think fests and lit fests, which were earlier only the forts of the leftists, left center cabal. Now there was a right-wing competition to it. So through this clash of ideas, now this technology has enabled spreading of it. And now people are becoming more self-conscious, self-aware, aware of the identity, the roots of our identity. People, youngsters, they want to now understand, they don't want to understand history as a subject which is to be studied for marks. They want to really know where I come from, what is my past, what is my heritage, what is my lineage, and where do I fit in, how do I take this forward tomorrow, whether, if say 5 years from now, if Modi ji is not in power, I mean, he has been an enabler of the new ecosystem that is building up, of the new thought process that is building up. I won't say that he is sponsoring it or he is actively championing it, but at least has been an enabler, that we now have an environment where we can freely discuss this, challenge the long established theories, and we will be listened to seriously, intently. So when 5 years down the line, when Narendra Modi is not there, somebody else comes in, will this sustain? That is the question. So what I see is that conflict of ideas, clash of ideas is still going on. I mean, this is something which Subhash Bose liked always to, he was a staunch Hegelian in terms of philosophy. So he always used to say that there is thesis, then there is antithesis, and out of that comes out synthesis. So that the battle between thesis and antithesis is still going on, and we are yet to reach the skill of synthesis, but we are moving in the right direction. And this change has happened. So each strand has taken place separately, technology being the central enabler, and they have reinforced each other at various phases, and it will continue to go in the same manner.
So in a way, you've answered what I was going to ask, but I'd like to ask you as well. How hopeful are you about the future of India?
I'm very hopeful. I mean, I don't want to harbor any negative thoughts about my country's future. So even if I don't hope, I
No,
hope
being
and pray.
dispassionate about how you see.
I see, as far as my little understanding goes about India's place in the world, etc. I think our next 5 years are very crucial for us because our biggest problem remains what it is to be the poverty, grinding poverty in the country. Of course, millions of people have come out of it, but India is nowhere close to being a first world country. We see that very often when we step outside our homes and we go outside and we go to remote areas and see how big a difference is the country is like compared to the Western. Now, I think in the basic challenge is the infrastructure, and the industry. Now, COVID has been in a sense blessing in disguise for us. So the industries are moving out of China, and India is the biggest place where it will be moved into. And who would have imagined that iPhone would be made in India? So it's happening. But on the other hand, the Chinese, of course, are not going to like it one bit. So they will use, because in our narrative, it's very from the days of Indira Gandhi, everything we pin down and blame on the CIA. They forget Americans are our friends right now. So what we have to worry about is the Chinese intelligence and others, and Pakistanis. The two countries which will be mighty unhappy with the rise of India, Pakistan and China. And the Chinese will not want, say they would want to, give out an image of India, that India is an unstable country, it has got conflicts, it's got fault lines and so forth. So I see there are a lot of people who would be, who are already giving India a bad image. They may be under different guises. So they will continue to do so. But as things stand today, I think the stuff is moving to India. And I see in next 10 years down the line, India will be a very different country from what it is today. It's a huge change. And God forbid it shouldn't happen, if it doesn't happen, because we will be in trouble if it doesn't happen. But I think my assessment, well, it could be because as I said, I wishful thinking, because I cannot think, I don't want to think otherwise. But I think in next 10 years time, and we have a strong solid government in the center, and I think they're also focused on that part only. So the stability continues. Another term for Modi, I think, would be good, because I don't find any other person of the caliber that he is, and at least in terms of infrastructure and the other, he's taking good decisions. So I'm pretty hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I do not know. Maybe I want to just put in, because I everywhere I bring in my own angle of Gumnami Baba and Netaji Subhash. As he said, Subhash was in the, he used to calculate things and talk about future, predict future. Subhash Bose has done that. But even in this form, when he was here at the guise of a holy man, he used to talk and think about India's future. You will find astonished, you'll be astonished. He actually predicted a lot of things which came true. Like the fall of Russia, the reunification of Germany. He talked about problem, with the Chinese. And so he predicted a lot of these things. So if his reading was and the rise of the right, if his reading was right, if his predictions are true, India is in for a phase which would have its share of, let's say, violence and other rumblings will take place, but eventually India will become the dominant power of the world. That's what, and I would like to, I would love to think that we are being a rational.
It was that India will enter a golden age, golden era.
Okay. So wonderful. I mean, I would love to talk for another 2 hours, and there's so many strains that one would like to explore, because in front of the camera one becomes a little conscious about sticking to the what has been asked. But there are so many clues you have given me, and I would have loved to explore each one of them. But anytime, some other time. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for having us, because we also find very little opportunities where we are called to talk in detail and discuss the philosophical groundings of the issues that we work on.
Yeah, no, we'll
It's a pleasure.
definitely take it forward. I don't think this is going to be the end. मुझे बहुत आनंद आया दोनों का घोष साहब से और अनुज धर साहब से इंटरव्यू करके, और इतनी सारी इसमें से बातें निकल ली कि मैं तो चाहता हूँ कि वो सबको एक्सप्लोर किया जाए. उसमें बहुत समय लगेगा, तो मैं ये अंत नहीं मानता हूँ, इसको एक शुरुआत मानता हूँ और हम इसको आगे ले जाएंगे. आप दोनों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और रियल थैंक यू सो मच.